Mhm. Um, Welcome. I'm so excited to have you on tonight. We are starting the first of a series that we're calling The Activated Life. We hope that you're going to follow us on our journey. I'd like to welcome everyone on tonight. Thank you so much for your time. And most of all, we appreciate your openness and your willingness to listen to what we have to say and share our journeys with us. This series, constructing this series has really been a personal journey for both of us. It's taken us back through many years of our lives. And although, as you're going to soon find out, our lives are very different, we have arrived at a very similar place. And we're going to share that with you over the next few weeks. So that's exactly what we're sharing this evening. And we have both arrived at a place that we're kind of calling our higher purpose. And we want you to see that vision along with us. So what you can expect tonight is just simply getting to know us. We are going to share with you who we are, how our journeys intersected, and what we see for our future. We're going to be sharing more about our passion and our purpose. And we are going to start out this evening by my sharing a little bit about my story. And then I'm going to turn it over to my co-host tonight. So for those of you who are seeing me, that's me. And if you are meeting me for the first time, welcome on board. So I am going to share what happened to me this morning with a little bit of a personal side. I woke up very, very early in anticipation of doing this tonight. And it wasn't even daylight, and my mind was already flooded with thoughts on what I was going to say and what I was going to do. And it really took me back. And I immediately started really crafting more about what I wanted to share tonight. So I just first of all want to tell you how grateful and how honored I am to be sharing this with you all this evening and to be sharing a bit of my journey. And this is just a bit. We have several weeks planned for you, so stay tuned for future episodes. It's been a remembrance for us both. It's caused us to focus and a little bit of a renewal. So for the next few weeks, we're going to add more information and tell you about our stories. Although it's not the beginning of my journey, what I am telling you about tonight actually started about 9 years ago. I have always been a real fan of travel. I love travel. I've traveled almost all of my adult life. And so for me, when my daughter grew up, I saw a lot of opportunity for travel and freedom. But something else happened. After being a stay-at-home mom for about 20 years, I found myself at a new stage of life. And for many, many, many people, that stage of life represents an exciting time. Being an empty nester when the kids are all gone, lots of freedom, and exciting new opportunities, right? And for me, especially an opportunity to do things that I'm really passionate about. But it was a reality. That my heart and my soul and the focus of what I had been doing for the last 18 years was actually leaving. And she had her own journey. And that was her journey, and that was her beginning. And a lot of that did not include me. Although I had been planning for it and looking forward to it with anticipation, I don't think I was really actually prepared for that. And I had some serious doubts about where I was going next. I had walked away 20 years ago from a high-level corporate job, and I started to question everything. I started to question where I was, had I made the right decisions along the way, was being a full-time mom the right thing? Lots of things started circulating in my mind that were big, big questions. And so what should have been a really exciting time in my life was overshadowed by a lot of doubt. The other thing that was looming was something that we call aging. It was my wake-up call, because the things that I was used to doing also, that I was looking forward to doing more of, all of a sudden had changed. And I was not feeling the energy. I was not feeling good. My happy, busy, active life and all the blessings that I was so grateful for were just not there anymore. Physically, I was very tired, and I knew that it had to be aging. What else could it be? But I had always been used to having such energy and vitality. But more concerning than that was a loss of joy and a loss of enthusiasm. I didn't have any issues in my life that caused that. I had no reason to feel that way, but I felt that way. And I managed to go on about my life. My husband and I traveled a lot and made some wonderful trips abroad. But looking back now, there were times when I was so tired, I was jet lagged, I wasn't even happy, and I wasn't even enjoying what I had really looked forward to doing. So I was grateful for the travel photos, because that was a good memory, but there were things that were just still missing. And I wasn't sure yet where I was going to go to find the change that I needed. I needed to get back the joy and the vitality and the excitement in my life. And I was still getting a wake-up call. And maybe for some of you, that's what's happening in your life. It may be a different stage in your life. It may be a different reason. It may be something in your life that's tugging you in a different direction. And we don't always know what it is, and we don't always know what the answer is. So for me, I thought, well, I'm a healthy person. Next thing I need to know is what I do to help me feel better. So I did what everybody does. I went to the biggest vitamin store in town, and I shopped all over the place looking for an answer to this. And I found it. I absolutely found it. I saw women's ultra mega daily packs in a big pink beautiful box with lots of little packaged pills in there, and it seemed to be the answer to everything. I really didn't know much about it, but it seemed like it was a good solution, and it certainly looked like a good solution at the time. I had all the answers, right? Sounded good. So I went home with all my pink boxes, and my husband just shook his head and said, well, I'm not sure about this, but I certainly hope it does the trick for you. Seems like he'd already kind of discovered the changes that were going on for me. I was taking naps in the afternoon, and that wasn't normal either. So I think that I really was searching, and that's a message that I want to plant with you. Sometimes those wake-up calls are not so big. Sometimes they're subtle, but they're wake-up calls. So fast forward a few months, that didn't help. More exercise, more vitamins, none of that helped. So I did one other thing that I thought was a brilliant idea. I went to a language teaching program. I saw it advertised in a magazine, and it sounded like a wonderful experience. You go and volunteer to teach English, which I did in a beautiful little town in southern Italy. Well, it was a wonderful experience, but guess what? It just didn't do anything. When I came home, I was still in the same boat that I left in, feeling like a wonderful experience had come and gone, and so had my ship, and so had my answer. So I didn't really know what I was going to do at this point, but there is a next chapter, and I'm going to share that with you also. It seems that throughout that time, my husband had been looking also, and we're going to share that in some future episodes. But my slump was definitely a slump, but I'm going to share with you a little bit about what's happened in the intervening years. I started traveling again, and what you're seeing here are some great trips that I've taken in the last few years to China, and riding bikes in Amsterdam, and petting little baby tigers in Thailand. A lot of really wonderful experiences that have come about since then. So I recently saw a picture of myself, and it popped up on Facebook, and it was a picture from 9 years ago. And I can tell you right now, it's not the lady that you're seeing on the screen. I didn't even hardly recognize myself 9 years ago, but lots have changed since then. And I'm going to share that with you as we go on this journey in the next few weeks. So I'm happy that you're joining us this evening, and I'm going to give you some challenges. You're stronger than you think. You can do more than you think. And I know you're going to ask me, when was this picture taken? Well, that was Friday. It was a little gym challenge. So I have kind of a new philosophy about my life. And I hope that this is something that resonates with you wherever you are. If you're a mom raising your children, a business owner, an entrepreneur, or maybe you're juggling all of those things, there's things that we all can do. And there's a new and exciting chapter that's just around the corner. And I'm going to share, as will my co-host, on how our journeys have changed and where we're going in the future. So let me tell you a little bit about my co-host. I met her a few years ago. Actually, I saw her first. She was doing a presentation at a meeting. Well, this meeting had about 5,000 people, and she was on the stage doing an incredible presentation. And I just, like all the other 5,000 people in the audience, was excited about what she was sharing. And so in the last couple of years, I've gotten to know her a little bit more as we've seen each other again at business events, and we've had an opportunity to connect and talk. And we talked about our journeys, how different they are and how different we are. But along that journey, we've arrived at a really intersecting place where we have this passion to really share with people on ways that you can really change your life too. And we really call it a higher purpose. Our journeys are different and we're very different, but you're going to see how they all come together with a really, really wonderful purpose that we're going to share with you in our lives. And it really is just to educate you and to give you some knowledge, and maybe give you enough knowledge where you can take this and make a change in your life. So I'm going to introduce my co-host at this time, and I'm going to turn the presentation over to her. Dr. Deborah Viglione is a board-certified anti-aging and regenerative medicine doctor. She is certified double board by the American Academy of Anti-Aging and Regenerative Medicine. She's a mom, she's an athlete, and a former Air Force veteran. And there's a lot more that she's going to share on this journey. Recently, Dr. Viglione was named by Trademark, which is a professional magazine that showcases leading professionals. She had the distinct honor of being named the Woman of Distinction in the state of Florida for her work in internal medicine in the state of Florida. So I'm going to turn this over to Dr. Viglione.
Thanks, Rita. That's our wonderful, beautiful beach here at Pensacola Beach. And I actually live on the peninsula, Gulf Breeze, and that's where I have my practice. I'm going to take you just through a journey, because people ask me all the time, what drove you to being a doctor? How did you end up where you are today, what you're doing today, and what's fueling your passion at this point? So I'm going to go way back. I think I was about 4 or 5 years old. Not her yet. You can keep me on there. I was about 4 or 5 years old, and I was at my grandmother's house. And my dad's sister, Aunt Nancy, had always been somebody that I looked up to. She was so cool when she was in college. And I remember being in the room, and she came in after she finished nursing school in the old-fashioned nursing outfits with the white starched hat. She had the starched dress. She had on the white hose and the shoes, and I was just spellbound. I was like, oh my gosh, I want to be just like you. I was so excited. I want to be like Aunt Nancy. And that continued. And I think I was about 2nd grade, and I was talking to her on the phone, and I can just clearly see myself in the bedroom in Ann Arbor, Michigan, having this conversation with her about how I was going to cure cancer, and I was going to operate on these people and do all these cool things just like her. And she interrupted me and she says, Debbie, nurses don't do those things. Doctors do. And I got real quiet because I realized Aunt Nancy's a nurse. I want to be like Aunt Nancy, but I want to do these things. So I just said, well, I guess I'm going to be a doctor then. And just matter of factly, and went on. So I can think back that I've always had this passion in me to heal people. I asked for all my birthdays and Christmas. I'd want a new doctor kit. I'd want the latest and greatest. When I was in junior high, I had a chemistry lab down in the basement, and I would have these animals, gerbils, and things running around. I mean, I was crazy passionate about wanting to heal people and be a doctor. So everything kind of was geared to that. And I'm very fortunate that I ended up in the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill School of Medicine, because some of the things I'm going to tell you just wouldn't happen if I had been at another school. And I was very fortunate to be there at a wonderful time because Michael Jordan was there. He was coming back in the summers because he'd started his NBA career, and his mother, if you guys can remember that long ago, that he signed a contract. She wanted him to finish his college degree. So he was back there in the summers, and we used to pass each other going to class. And so I'd be, hey, Michael, how you doing? You know, so it was a pretty cool thing. And one of my classmates actually would play pickup basketball with him. They were good friends. So it was a really neat thing. But I think some monumental things transpired when I was at Chapel Hill, because people say, well, how were you open to other forms of medicine? Because allopathic medicine tends to be so narrow-minded and actually confrontational and angry at other fields. So my first year at Chapel Hill, they had a panel discussion, and they had healers from all areas. Like I can remember there was a Native American healer. There was a midwife that I'll tell you more about. There was a Christian Science healer, chiropractor, just multiple herbalists, things like that. And when they introduced them, they said, we are allopathic medicine. There are other legitimate forms of medicine out there. There was an acupuncturist, I remember that. And they treated them with the utmost respect. And we were able to have conversations with them. So that legitimized it from the get-go. You know, that was the beginning of my 4-year career there. But one of the things to tell you just how open-minded they were is in our lab, that's where we basically did everything with, I had an ex-hippie. 60 Minutes had done a special on him, whatever happened to the hippies. And he lived on a farm in Tennessee. And he invited his midwife to come and talk to us. And she's quite famous. She has a book out. Her name's Ina Mae Gaskin. She was so impressive that Chapel Hill invited her back to give a grand rounds, which is a big deal because that's where all the big professors and things come to hear her. So I decided right then, after watching her videos, that I really wanted to have a baby with a midwife, because third-year medicine, I saw how doctors delivered babies, and there was a stark contrast, and I wanted the midwife delivery. So anyway, that's how I think I was open-minded. And when I finished the Air Force, or before that, I used an Air Force scholarship to go to medical school. So when I got out, I had to actually go into medical school or go to an Air Force residency. I had hoped, I still had this burning desire in me to cure cancer. And so I had planned to go into research, but I think looking now, God had other plans for me. So I decided to go into internal medicine and specialize in oncology, because my passion was really at getting an answer for cancer. Well, on my oncology rotation, I was devastated. My whole world fell apart because I saw chemotherapy kill people. It was horrible. People would stay there for months at Keesler Air Force Base on chemo. It was just awful. And that kind of went back to my pediatric rotation in medical school, where I saw all these children die. It was just horrible. So I realized there had to be a better way, and there was no way I was going to do that to people. And I just chose not to specialize, because I was really lost at that point, or subspecialized. What am I going to do with my life? What does God want me to do? Because cancer obviously was not in the picture, but I still had that burning desire to fix people. So I was in the Air Force, I said. So I actually got married right before the first Desert Storm. Everybody was eloping at the time, and I married somebody that I had gone out with 6 weeks prior. So that was kind of a crazy thing to do. I deployed for Desert Storm, came back, went to Edwards Air Force Base with him, and got pregnant as soon as I got there. Well, they won't let you have epidurals. I might have wanted a midwife delivery, but I was a little bit scared about going all the way natural, but that was what I had to do. So I had a childbirth educator who knew some things about homeopathy and herbs, and really helped me, because I ended up with an emergency C-section, and my daughter had colic, probably because of all the antibiotics she was on. So I learned a little bit there. And when I came back here, it was actually prior to that, I'd been at Eglin Air Force Base and had a resident who was going into an 80% alternative practice. So I knew a little bit about alternative medicine, but I mean, we're talking a small amount. So I came back here, got out of the Air Force because they wouldn't take us off deployment. And I was pregnant with my second child, and I knew that I had to focus on the family, and got out and started a practice here in Gulf Breeze, Florida. And sent a few patients to the only health food store we had at the time to get something for a cold. Well, after that, the health food store started sending all of their people that came in there to me because they thought I knew something about alternative, integrative, whatever, natural medicine, and I knew next to nothing. And I tried to discourage the people from coming in because I didn't know what to do with them. One lady came in who might be listening tonight, and she had a book on hormone replacement by Christine Northrup, and she slammed it down in front of me, says, "You need to read this and figure out how to do this for me." So the local pharmacists and I partnered and learned ourselves through a few books that were out at the time how to do bioidentical hormone replacement. Now there's classes and there's all kinds of things, but we were pioneers at the time. I had another patient come in and said, "Hey, you need to go and find out how to get mercury out of my body." And at the time, there were quite a few mercury toxic people, and there still are here because the Gulf of Mexico is full of mercury they used to, when they would drill for oil, they would plug it with a big mercury plug, and that's why the fish have gotten so contaminated. Now, they don't do that anymore, and I'm hoping the contamination rate is going down, but it was pretty bad when I first started practice here in the 90s. So anyway, I was dabbling I was still doing mostly internal medicine, but if you remember in the early 90s that we had chronic fatigue illness start out, fibromyalgia, the Gulf War illness, and these were all very similar, but nobody knew what to do with these people, and they were really sick. They felt horrible, and the people were putting them on antidepressants and telling them they were crazy. And I knew that they weren't crazy, but I didn't know what to do with them. So that, I really, you know how conventional medicine is. It's like 15 minutes for a patient, and these people would come in and cry for 15 minutes. So I couldn't even get down to the nitty gritty. And so I would fall behind, and it was very tumultuous, or however you say it, trying to manage these people. So I really was trying to not do this kind of medicine, but God had other plans for me. So what happened, and I call this the big turning point in my life. Now you can show my mom. My mom, that I think is her picture. She went to the University of Iowa and actually played golf there. And I think that was her sorority picture. She was an Alpha Zeta Delta. And then this is the next picture, is what she looked like when this happened. But she was probably the most influential person in my life. And it's really made me who I am. She was a very strong woman in a time when women weren't allowed to do a lot. And she devoted her life to Christ and ended up serving him. She helped my father and supported his career for most of my young life, but then branched out and became an ordained minister herself. But I was very, very close to her. And after I had my third child, Emily, I literally had just given birth with a midwife. It was the most beautiful experience. It was a couple pushes and she came out and everything was beautiful. And I hadn't delivered the placenta yet. And I got this phone call from my father. And he said some horrible words that I knew that she had ovarian cancer and that it was very bad and that I was going to lose her. So now, instead of seeing somebody who was a stranger basically die of cancer, I was faced with the most important person in my life that I knew was going to die of this horrible disease that I still hadn't cured yet. And so that really changed everything for me, because I realized that I couldn't just stay in my own little comfort zone and practice internal medicine, that I had to get out there and learn more and find answers to this horrible disease and everything else that's out there. And you only have to watch TV for 15 minutes now, and you'll see these commercials for all of these ads for these horrible drugs that suppress your immune system, because there's so much autoimmune disease out there. It has escalated tremendously from the 1990s when these diseases came. So that really, instead of running from it, I embraced it. This is my purpose now, and I'm so passionate about trying to share this message, because I realize in Little Gulf Breeze, Florida, I can only treat, a certain amount of people, and I want to reach the world, because I have found some answers, guys, some very big answers, and not, just to health and wellness. And I want to share those, and I hope you'll invite people at our further episodes, because what we want to do is just build on this each week to tell you more, share you more about our journey and what we've learned and what's helping. Because as we age, they're calling it now increased health span. We want to increase our longevity, but only if we're healthy. We want maximum or high performance movement. We got to move. We want high performance cognition, and we want to look our best. We don't want to look old and wrinkled. So, if we can achieve that and take it into the future and stay healthy, longevity is a great thing. So we really want to share that with you. That's our purpose. Let's see. Let's go to the next one. So, our next episode will be, we're going to do them on the first Monday of the month. This is me now. I'm a biohacker, and we'll explain more how that's in the gym. I don't know if Gabe is watching this, but he's one of my mentors, and he's got me in this really ridiculous workout routine now, but now I'm addicted to it. Okay, so let's go to the next one. So basically, we want you to invite people to be on this. We're going to record each of the episodes, and we'll have them on our YouTube channel so people can view them from now on. And I encourage you to reach out to the person that invited you to watch these, because that'll be more important as we get into nitty gritty. And we're available to answer questions. Our emails are here. And you can follow us on YouTube and subscribe to our channels. That way you'll know when we post something. So thank you for getting on, and I'm excited about this journey that Rita and I are going to go on with you, and hopefully help you increase your health span and have a great life. You want to close, Rita? Or?
I'm good.
All right. Thank you for tuning in. All right.